Blood is often heralded as one of the best DOS shooters of all time, and if you disagree with that statement, you're just lying to yourself. It had fun gunplay, a variety of crazy weapons, sweet maps to cause mayhem in, memorable one-liners, and best of all, lots of its namesake. Blood 2, on the other hand, it seemed to lack the elements that made the original great, and although it wasn't a terrible game, it still left a lot to be desired. And that's where the series ended. Enter Cultic, a game by one guy that, according to the Steam page, looks like it could be the true sequel to Blood. And after spending a weekend playing it, I can wholeheartedly say that this is what Blood 2 should have been like. Cultic stars a mute hero that wakes up from a pit of corpses and sets out for revenge on the cult that wronged him. Yes, it's very similar to Blood. That was probably the point. You start with no weapons other than your fists, and then eventually, as in a few steps later, a hatchet. There are plenty of notebooks and memos that can be found to further flesh out the plot, but just like games of the era, if you don't care about the plot, you don't need to worry about it, as the meat of the game is just slaying your enemies in a bloody mess. And there's plenty of that. As soon as you meet up with the first cultists to be thwarted, you'll instantly see that this game is not for the faint of heart. Lots of blood, sickening squishes, and eyeballs that get detached from headshots. Yeah, this game is a bit gory. Add in the fact that when performing said headshots, the game occasionally shows the devastation in slow motion, and you'll get the idea of the kind of game that Cultic is. The weapons aren't quite as, unique as Blood, but they're still varied enough to give each its own uses. I tended to use primarily the pistol of all things, because the handgun ammo seemed to be most plentiful. It did good damage, and was fairly accurate. Other weapons include a lever-action rifle for long-range slaughtering, a double-barrel shotgun, because you can't have a retro-style shooter without one, an FG-42 rifle that acts as the sniper rifle of the game, a stent for your automatic gun fix that uses handgun ammo, and more. Again, each gun tends to have their own disadvantages and advantages, but the biggest disadvantage of all seems to be the lack of ammo to be found. Later in the game, it didn't seem to be as bad, as enemies tended to drop a bit more, but early on in the game, I felt like a threat of running out of ammo was always a thing. I don't know if that was intentional, but it might be why I had relied heavily on the pistol when I had the shotgun and lever-action rifle available. You might think, well, this was a retro shooter, don't the enemies drop ammo? And, sort of, but they don't do it often enough. In fact, they tended to drop health pickups more often. However, this doesn't entirely act as a pain point with Cultic, as it makes you attempt to be more accurate rather than spraying bullets anywhere with reckless abandon. In addition to that, you can also find upgrade tables that perform slight increases to the weapon's abilities. Each weapon has 4 upgrades available, minus the hatchet, which cannot be powered up. Most weapons include some sort of damage buff, an accuracy increase, and a larger magazine, with a different 4th option. In order to perform these upgrades, you'll need to find weapon parts, strewn apart in the levels, typically in well-hidden secret areas. Upgrades require anywhere from 2 to 4 parts, so you definitely need to look out for those secrets if you want everything powered up. One of the things that might be my only gripe with the game are the enemy types. They aren't incredibly varied, sadly. Probably 90% of the enemies that you'll go up against are just different types of robed cult members. You can use the colors of their robes to differentiate what their weapon of choice is. Brown guys throw hatchets, gray fire off their pistol at you, red guys throw dynamite and have shotguns. There are other threats, such as skeletons, large chainsaw wielders, and demons that float around and attack you with telekinesis, but I do wish there was more of a variety, rather than just hooded nutjobs. Yet, at the same time, it's what the game is. You're fighting cult members, so of course it's what you're going to be running into. By the time you reach some of the non-human enemies, the plot has already gone thicker with the motives of the cult, so it's to be expected to find those types of enemies later on. One other thing to mention is that some of the enemies are a bit spot on with their attacks. This was especially true of the grey pistol wielders. They could be about 200 yards away and still be able to snipe you with their pistols. Even actual snipers of the game aren't that accurate. It might be annoying for a while, but you do get used to it and learn how to cope. Another thing to mention about Cultic is its levels. Sure, there are lots of browns and grays used in the visuals, but everything is just so atmospheric that it's occasionally jaw-dropping. From the start of the game, when you descend into the mines and run into a ton of zombies, to midway when you enter the asylum and the whole thing erupts into flames, it's a pleasure to explore. I checked every nook and cranny to search for the secret areas, not minding about spending extra time in each of the 10 stages. Everything feels appropriate to the world that the developer envisioned, making you feel that as you're playing the game, you are truly attempting to take down a psychotic cult. Oh, and in the excavation chamber, I was raining down some major fire with a napalm launcher. I couldn't help but hum Slayer's Raining Blood as I was doing it. I may have to try playing this game with Slayer playing in the background. I can't help but think that it'll fit. There are a few boss battles to be found, and they are intense. I won't spoil the end boss for you, but a bit over halfway through the game, you'll go up against a tank. Yes, a tank. I read Steam reviews that stated people complained with this stage, as it's short, so it has no checkpoints, doesn't allow for mid-level saving due to the boss, and a constant swarm of cultists approach you. Yes, I died a few times, but no, I didn't care. I learned to keep some health items around, utilize the first aid kit that could be used at any time for emergencies, and fired at the tank when time allowed. Since getting the footage, the first patch apparently made that stage easier, as the developer noted that he added a checkpoint and made only basic thugs spawn in, so if that was something you might have been concerned with, be concerned no more. The music is also really good. Remember when games had actual music? Not this orchestral or ambient stuff. Actual pumping music that fit with the stages. The music occasionally changes during the stage, based on the part of the level that you're at. And other parts have zero music to build tension. And it all works perfectly. I really do miss this kind of stuff. And believe it or not, 3D Realms published this game. It's amazing that the company is still around, but they still ensure that they are releasing fantastic games, and that's what matters. And even crazier, all of Cultic was made by one guy. Yes, one developer that did everything. Jason Smith, I tip my hat to you. At least, I would if I wore hats, which I don't. Cultic is one of the best games that I've played all year. I don't normally buy day one games, but this one I do not regret. It was a true pleasure to play from start to finish, and not once did I get bored. Again, if I had to complain about something, it would be the variety of the enemies and the sniper attributes of the pistol shooters, but other than that, I would say this game is up for being a game of the year. Seriously, I want more from this guy. He has announced that he's already working on Chapter 2, but I don't want to wait. I want it now. But seriously, he can take his time, because once I'm done editing this review and uploading it, I'm going to replay it. Because yes, it's that damn good. And for $10, you could do a hell of a lot worse. Final score? 7 out of 7. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.